Hey guys, what's up? It's Cole. So Yoshi P has been the producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV for many years and has brought his love and passion and talent for gaming to make it something that I truly genuinely enjoy. But recently, Final Fantasy XVI is released, which has also been something that he's been spending so much of his time on, and I would be a liar if I didn't think that Final Fantasy XVI would have some kind of impact on Final Fantasy XIV, especially now that we have FanFest coming up in a few weeks from now, where they're probably going to be at least hinting towards a job. We're probably going to be looking at the shirt and being like, Spider-Man, does that mean Blue Mage or does that instead mean Samurai? My thoughts are that Final Fantasy XIV is going to be getting a Beastmaster DPS job that uses scouting gear in next expansion. And a lot of people are going to be like, wait, what? Okay, let me explain for a second. Final Fantasy XVI, and this is as spoilery as it's going to get, has a pet companion named Torgal that follows you, and you can use commands through the D-pad on the PS5 controller to do things like sick, which is like sick'em, attack, like go rar or whatever, and then a heal, which is just going to be a nice utility, and we know DPS have a lot of those heals in them, and then we have ravage, which is going to be like a more like bursty combo-y type action. And that's as many spoilers as we're going to get into here, so if you're worried about that, trust me, I don't want to do that to anyone. But the point is, in this game with like Devil May Cry combat, you are basically like playing your character at the same time as you're using a pet, which is very, very Beastmastery. And Beastmaster is not new to the franchise. I'm going to dive into that later, but you're attacking in tandem, and it is a really interesting style of gameplay and combat. And if I'm super duper incredibly honest, Final Fantasy XVI's Torgal is iconic, to say the absolute least, which I really think might be saying the absolute least. Torgal has been like, there's like plushies of him and everything. There has been so many Twitter posts and everything. I think that the devs know that Torgal is like a centerpiece of the game, and rightfully so. But what I'm getting at here is Yoshi P working on 14 and 16. I'm pretty sure that he's going to grab some pieces of 16 and put them in, and I'd be shocked if it wasn't Torgal. Now, I made a claim about scouting gear that I'm going to get out first. So scouting gear is currently only usable by Ninja. That is clearly an island, just Ninja's on its own little island. It's like Samurai and Monk share gear. Dragoon is sharing gear with Reaper now. And so what is the missing melee? Well, we're at least assuming it's melee. I'd be shocked if it was ranged, though, because in 16, obviously, yeah, I'd be shocked if it was ranged. It's probably going to be melee. But the missing one is Ninja's scouting armor, and so I'm 99% sure whatever the next DPS job is, it's going to be using scouting armor just to balance that out, because that's just been the progression the devs have done since Stormblood. Which kind of makes sense, because if you're like a Beastmaster, are you necessarily going to be wanting to wear like super bulky heavy armor? I mean, maybe, maybe not, but at the same point in time, I think like RPG-wise, like if you're thinking about like Dungeons and Dragons and more classic RPG-wise, they're usually wearing more leather armor. They're certainly not wearing robes or dresses, because that's all healers get for glam, but they're probably not wearing plate, and so it's probably going to fit into scouting armor, I think. Beastmaster is also not something new in Final Fantasy XIV. Years ago, when we first saw BOZJA content, there was just piles of references to Beastmaster. Guys, I cannot emphasize enough with you the intense amount of droves of citations of Garleans using beasts and Beastmasters. Like, we even had Leon, who was like literally using this giant bird. Like, there are just oodles upon oodles upon oodles of references in Final Fantasy XIV right now, to the point where I was kind of scratching my head being like, huh, no Beastmaster during Endwalker? Oh, okay, I guess. Not that I hate Sage or Reaper, do not get me wrong, I think that they're great, but I was like, no Beastmaster after all those references? I made a few videos on it, which I'll put it in the comment, pinned comment and description if you want more on that. I'm not going to belabor the point, but Beastmaster has also appeared a ton during the Final Fantasy XIV franchise in general, including Final Fantasy XI, which was the other MMORPG. We saw it through Final Fantasy V, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. We saw it through just a bunch of them. I think it even appeared in like Dissidia. But being in an MMORPG like sphere, because 14 is one, I'd say that it's probably going to pull more from Final Fantasy XI's version of it. Probably the most noteworthy feature of Final Fantasy XI's Beastmaster is that when you like scroll down, and I'm just citing the wiki page here, if you look at the combat skill ratings with it, you're going to see that it's really with melee weapons: axe, scythe, dagger, club, sword. And if you look at Leon and a bunch of other Beastmasters in 14, you can see, hey, these are melee Beastmasters as well. Which, if you look at 16, obviously Clyde is going to be a melee character. Now let's get to a very real fact about Final Fantasy XIV, because there's going to be limitations as soon as it comes in here. The first thing is, I don't think that we're going to get a damage over time based job, just because looking at Final Fantasy XVI, there seems to be a massive omission of that. I don't think that's a spoiler because I'm talking about mechanics, but I apologize to anyone that would consider that, but mechanically, they don't have damage over time effects. So I don't think that we're actually going to get a green mage, a dot mage, or anything like that in 14. Even though, guys, you know me, I want my dots back on Scholar. I miss him. I miss him so bad. I miss Old Summoner too, but I really don't see him coming back. But other limitations that we're going to see is that there is probably also going to be no customization whatsoever of what pet you can have out. You're going to have some static pet. It's going to be like Scholar. You know exactly what a Scholar's bringing. Don't matter what skin you put on it. It is going to be Celine or Eos, but it's literally going to be the same fairy that has Whispering Dawn, Fey Illumination, goes away when you use Summon Seraph. Like, everything has been very homogenized. So Beastmaster, I'm going to argue, and probably argue quite fairly, I think most people would agree, purge the idea of being able to be like, well, what if I take out like a crab pet and that it like let's not make that joke, and like it buffs the defense of the entire party as its like special action. No, I do not see that even remotely close as possible. I am 99% sure if we see the Beastmaster, it is going to come with a wolf pet or a dog pet or something that is highly Torgal-esque. Torgal-esque. Did I really say that? But it's going to be Torgal-esque, you know what I mean? And it's going to be not customizable whatsoever at all, and it is going to just have synergy with the kit. Which I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that's such a bummer. I disagree. I think that there's a lot of cool gameplay, space in Final Fantasy XIV that you can really play and expand with. And I hope that the devs are going to lean into more of that, especially in the next expansion, because I think things like Scholar's Expedient, I think that that was a very, very big risk. And I was saying that as soon as I saw it, this is going to be a great ability. And still, even now in like Savage Prog or in Ultimate Prog, I can tell you, I myself have been using Expedient to brilliant lengths. I am such a fan of the ability. So we still have a lot of exploring that the devs can do in our space, I think. When it comes to Beastmaster, honestly, I expect it to follow the same kind of basic 1, 2, 3 rotation flow that can like stem into other things. Because if we look at like the Reaper, it has like on its OGCDs like the avatar actions. I could see Torgal's or the Final Fantasy XIV's Torgal's actions on your off global cooldown, and then I could really see you having that basic fundamental rotation, and then just exploring like combos of abilities to be like your super big like finishers or spikers, kind of like Dragoon has that big twirl into the air and then star diver down. How cool would it be if it had a mobility ability where you literally just jumped onto your pet and just dashed ahead? I think that that would be so cool. It'd basically just be a reskinned Icarus from Sage or like an Anavant from a Dancer, but it'd be so cool. But if we're going to talk about utility skills, which is what I'm going to end this video on because I know people want it short and condensed, I think that Torgal has a heal in 16, and that could be basically brought into Final Fantasy 14 as a great utility because we already have so many heal over time effects, I almost said HOTs, in Final Fantasy 14, and I think that that would translate very well to the game. With that being said, I want to know everyone else's thoughts. I think that this is actually probable, and I'm kind of excited. I might go DPS next expansion if this is the thing.